We are now going to move to segment number 2, which I believe will be started with Matt. So he'll both run the numbers and give us the initial take.
All right, so we've got Dire Straits with their 1982 album Love Over Gold. Comes in at number 105 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums, number 10 in 1982, number 687 of all time. It's Dire Straits' fourth highest rated album on Best Ever Albums, behind number 1, which is Brothers in Arms. We're going to cover that in a couple of episodes, I believe. Making Movies from 1980. We've covered that in a cold listen. And then there's the self-titled Dire Straits from 1978, which we did not cover. This record is not on Rolling Stone's list, and Dire Straits is ranked number 127 of all-time artists on Best Ever Albums. This also, so John, was this just where did we get this one from?
This is another 1001 albums.
1001, okay.
Yep.
So this is the album of all the ones that we did this week. This is by far the one that I've known the best. This is the only Dire Straits album that I've ever owned. And I love this record. And the main reason that I own this album is because of the opening track, Telegraph Road, which is my favorite Dire Straits song. What a track that is. I just love everything about it. It's over 14 minutes long. I actually am looking at Wikipedia here. They're throwing this under the genre of progressive rock, which I guess that song could fall under.
I would say no doubt it's a progressive rock song.
And I never thought of that before, maybe because it's probably more of a straightforward progressive rock song. It's just long, right? It's not like weird time signatures or like drastic changes. There's some changes in here, particularly from like the verses that they do in the chorus in the beginning. And then the big instrumental parts, right? The jam that they do, particularly at the end, which just builds and builds and builds. So a lot of that stuff's right in my wheelhouse. And again, you're talking about Mark Knopfler's guitar tone, which is just awesome. Like the more I'm listening to these guys, the more I just really appreciate his guitar playing and the production that's behind the songs that they have. So in Telegraph Road, I remember listening to that once. My dad, we've talked about him before. He's not a music guy really at all. And I remember we were driving home somewhere, whatever, we're coming home from someplace, and it was night, and I had this. I was like, I put this on the car radio, and even like towards the end, my dad just turned to me and goes, "Man, this is really good." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Like, I got my dad into it. So I love that opening track. It's great. And then this is just such an interesting record. The second track, Private Investigations, which I'm looking here on Wikipedia, that was the lead single, which is such a fascinating single for me because it's such a interesting, unique, different song. It's very, God, you can barely hear parts of it, in the beginning. It's just so quiet. There's this like Spanish guitar that's just, It's very pretty. Mark Knopfler's not even singing. He's just talking through it, right? And then they kind of do a little bit of that part, and then it just goes into this weird, it's a breakdown. It's a weird way to put it because there's barely any sound. It's just like a bass drum, and then like a marimba or something, and then all of a sudden they'll just bang out a guitar chord, and it's like, and then the piano comes in, and it's not something that I would consider something that you would normally hear on the radio, but it's a really cool song. It's very restrained at parts, but then there's like an explosion of sound as well towards the end. Just a cool song overall. And then the second half of the record, Industrial Disease, is the other single. That's probably my least favorite song on here, but I still like it. It's kind of goofy. It's kind of got that, but that's the other single, and you can kind of see, where that's coming in as being something that's a little bit more radio friendly. It's got this weird, I don't know. It's kind of goofy. The way that the song is set up. His voice. And there's some instrument on there. I don't know. There's something that's fuzzed out that sounds a little kind of goofy or whatever.
There's some organ on there too, or piano or something.
It's like a weird, but then there's some effect on it that's just kind of, different. And then Love Over Gold's a really pretty ballad, and then It Never Rains is another great. It's a great closing track. I love the way it ends. It's a great jam. It rocks out. It builds. I don't know, man. I love this record. There's no duds on here. This is just it's only 5 tracks. It's 41 minutes long. So there's definitely some longer tracks on here. But this is a really cool band. I'm looking forward to listening to Brothers in Arms because I know the hits on that, but maybe not to the deeper cuts as much. And probably I want to go back to listen to other Dire Straits stuff because these guys are, I don't know, there's something special about them. There's something very unique and interesting. Great musicianship, really cool sounds, production, songwriting, and I'm a big fan of this. I'm thumbs up on this.
I'm in the middle on this one. Again, I feel like that's going to be a theme this week for me on these albums. But this was a dense album for me to unpack. You said, you listened to this at night that one time, Matt, in that story you told me, and I feel like this is the perfect album to listen to at night. Mm-hmm. There's something nighttime feeling about it.
Yep.
Either with the way he plays the guitar, just kind of the way the songs are laid out. That's a vibe I got from it. You didn't mention there's only 5 songs on this album. So
I said it.
Oh, okay. So it feels, in that sense, it feels proggy as well. They're really trying to create some sort of story through this. I kind of liken this album to like a really long book that is like, dense with information and character building and, interiority of the characters and things like that. That's kind of how I felt from song to song on this. I feel like it was really each song was trying to tell this kind of epic story through music. And I wasn't always able to follow along with it in some respect. There's a melancholiness to this album too. I feel like that was a feeling I felt listening to it. And I also, I knew you were going to like this album, Matt, but I also got a lot of Bob Dylan in this album and a lot of there's some Pink Floyd in here as well that it reminded me of. Mm-hmm. So I think those elements all incorporate, and I've always historically been kind of lukewarm on Pink Floyd and certain Bob Dylan, so I just didn't like this album as much as the previous Dire Straits album we listened to. I think there's not the I like Mark Knopfler's guitar, but it's not concise. It's more operatic, I don't know, spread out, languid in certain respects, and the changes from within the song is very proggy. The way it starts is completely different than the way it ends. There's not a lot of repeating choruses or even motifs. There, like you said too, it's very bombastic at times, or like things crash into the song like a lightning strike and then disappear, and so that kind of kept me off kilter as well. There's a lot of back and forth between the piano or the organ or whatever it is and the guitar. I think it pops up, the piano will play a little guitar part, and then the guitar will pop in and play something. And I guess maybe I was just hoping for more of kind of the special nature of the way the Dire Straits songs write hooks or something.
Do you want something a little more straightforward?
Yeah, maybe so. And maybe I just wasn't in the right place for this type of long album, but it really didn't hit me in the same way that the previous one did.
This is the second album I'd say that falls in the category of like a band that has a sound departing from the sound, I think, by choice. We didn't cover the earlier ones, but I know some of the tracks on it, and I would imagine it's sort of the more straight ahead rock, Josh. This seems to me like they're like, all right, we're going to make an ambitious album now, which is okay.
Yeah. It's almost like their jam band album in some way.
Yeah, it's Industrial Disease and It Never Rains work best for me. Industrial Disease is definitely like an 80s song, so I'll start by saying that. There's some level of, I think, a synthy sound and an 80s sound, and It Never Rains is there. Private Investigations and Love Over Gold do not do it for me. I don't know if sort of a atmospheric, ambient sort of Dire Straits is how I want my Dire Straits guitar tone to be given to me. I think Matt put it great.
That's a good word too.
Yeah, I think like not ambient in like a emo or real art rock way, but there's a lot of space in this album. I think that's why you're getting the Pink Floyd vibe, especially on Private Investigations and Love Over Gold. And I don't know, it just seemed like a mismatch of a genre with a skill set, if that makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense that Telegraph Road is Matt's favorite song by Dire Straits, because it's like, it sounds like the E Street Band. Like, it's basically a Bruce Springsteen E Street Band song, but spread out to like prog rock level length, right? And so the Telegraph Road's like many prog rocks. It's like 4 different songs, and I enjoyed it. I'm not going to say I could never call that my favorite. I mean, when Dire Straits writes like Sultans of Swing, it's like, it's impossible for me to take songs that have guitar riffs like that undeniable and say, oh, I like the 14-minute song that kind of goes. No, it's like, I'm going to always, in the same way Matt's going to always go for like the longer form version, I'm always going to go for that sweet like hook or tasty guitar.
Well, I don't know if I will always do it, but I will if it sounds like this.
Yeah, but same thing. It's like you can have a guitar riff and not have much else, and I don't know if I'll always love you, but Telegraph Road works for. That's okay. Telegraph Road works for me. But Private Investigations and Love Over Gold were a slog, and when it's a slog and you're at 6 minutes and 46 seconds, it does wear on you a little bit. I've often classified things as night albums on this podcast. I can definitely see why you guys are saying that, and certainly the cover between the night vibe and the lightning bolt, 2 things that you guys both, I think, without even realizing it, evoked, right? And the sound of this.
A good point.
Yeah. So I think it wasn't I think you guys got there honestly in terms of what they're going for. But this is a decidedly thumbs in the middle album for me once again. It doesn't rise to the level of an album that I always, for me to get a thumbs up, it has to be something that I would explore it again. I don't think I have a barrier to. This isn't a true prog rock album, but I don't think I have a barrier to prog rock. But I just don't know if you have to really be doing something interesting for me in prog rock at a level that this was not doing for me, I guess. And I think because now I've heard what the best of the best up to this point of that sound is, or the best of the best of more ambient sounds and stuff. Like I said, it feels to me like someone trying on a costume where you can see that they're play acting a little bit as opposed to authentically wearing it. And that's my takeaway for this album a little bit. Yeah.
It's so interesting because I definitely see like Private Investigations I consider that to probably be the most proggy song on here because there's the most varied kind of stuff going on there. But like I don't know, Telegraph Road, It Never Rains, they're long songs, but like it doesn't seem like, I think of prog and I think like time signature changes and really elaborate musical parts happening, and to me those just seem like extended rock songs with a jam. That's I think I look at that more as like a jam kind of thing rather than a prog thing. So and I see that I can see how people might describe it as that, but it's certainly not something that I thought of before coming into this episode, recording this tonight. But I don't know. I think too, I remember when I first heard Private, my brother had this album like when he was a kid and I was, and I remember him listening to it, and I remember Private Investigations going like, what the hell is this? Like there's where's the song? There is a ton of space on that, but I think that I benefited this week from just knowing that song and having grown to like it over years and years of listening to it and listening to this record. I think one of the things when I first got this album, I knew Telegraph Road, that's why I bought it, and I knew Private Investigations, but it was the other 3 songs that I didn't really know that well that when I listened to and I got the album, I was like, crap, this is really cool, especially It Never Rains. I really like that, the way that the album ends. But I get it. I don't know. I guess I like the longer jammy. I mean, that's kind of fits my musical taste a little bit more than you guys. So that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I love this, and I really like Dire Straits. Also, fun fact, I just had up on Wikipedia here that I didn't know this, and maybe one of you guys did, but apparently there were other songs that were recorded that were written by Dire Straits during this time that, during these sessions that were not put on the album. One of them was Private Dancer, which was a song that they eventually
Tina
gave to Tina Turner. Yeah, so that was written by Mark Knopfler. So, yeah, I didn't know that. So,
I mean, it kind of sounds like some of the songs on this. I would have never intuitively gotten there, but when I think about what the sound of it is, it does sonically sort of fit. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt. You're just more comfortable in kind of the space of jamming out, and
I guess so.
And that's kind of the other side of the coin to prog for me. Is it's like jamming out in a different way in prog rock, and either one, I'm like, just get on with it for the most part.
Don't bore us. Get to the chorus, Josh.
Well, and I was here for Telegraph Road as Dire Straits' attempt at it, but a whole album of it was, I think it was a little bit overkill for me. I think it would have worked better in the context of an album with some of Dire Straits' more traditional sound.
I don't know.
Industrial
Disease and Love Over Gold are just longer songs that just have many choruses. I don't know if they extend.
Industrial Disease, certainly. That's the most like a song that would have been on another Dire Straits album. I agree with you on that. Yeah. Which I think is why I liked it best on the album.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's the shortest one, John, at 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
On Amazon I don't think it's the most popular song on this album. So.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm sorry, where was that, Josh?
On Amazon.
On Amazon?
Their little bar chart shows Industrial Disease as the most popular listened.
Oh, it probably is on Spotify as well.
No, it's number 4 out of 5 on this album.
Oh, there you go.
Telegraph Road is 1, Private Investigations is 2,
okay.
Love Over Gold is 3, and Industrial Disease is 4.
So Amazon listeners are a little different than Spotify listeners,
they have more Dire Straits fans on Amazon.
Or casual listeners, not completists.
How
like
do you
Matt.
casually come into Industrial Disease? Tell me that. I'd never even heard of Telegraph Road before this album.
Oh yeah, I've loved that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I have a funny story of that. I remember I came home. I was with my brother. We were out somewhere late one night, and so we got to his place, and we were about ready to go to bed. I'm like, let's play some. I just want to play one song. Let's just hang out, play a song. And I put on Telegraph Road. He goes, dude, you can't do that. He goes, wait, I just want to put on one song. Hang on. And he goes, and he gets thick as a brick.
That's like my buddy Jeff, who to troll people would go into the jukebox and always play CCRs. I heard it through the grapevine.
Oh yeah, I'm that guy too. I love that. Like, get your money's worth, John. If I'm going to pay 50 cents, I don't want to just my song to be over in 2.5 minutes.
I remember saying to him, "I'm not going to defend you because I hate you for doing this too." So, yeah.
That's all right. I love you, Jeff. I would do the same thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, 2 down, 4 to go after that set of stories.